Well, welcome everybody. I'm Garrett Westlake. I'm the Executive Director of the Da Vinci Center for Innovation, and super excited that you all have joined us for another one of our info sessions on the Master of Product Innovation program. We've got a couple things planned for you here tonight, and for those folks that are going to watch it later. So we're going to do a quick housekeeping introduction thing with Mary, Chris, and Allison, and then I'm going to get a chance to interview a former student, which is always really fun. We've got Josh here with us, and so he and I are going to talk a little bit about the program, and then you're going to get into the specifics of the nitty-gritty of the program with Allison and Mary Chris, and really go look at that semester by semester look at what you need to do for your application and key dates and all that kind of good stuff. So I'll start. Mary Chris, you and Allison want to just do quick intros so that people know who we are from Da Vinci.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here and watching. If you're watching the recording, I'm Mary Chris Escobar. I'm the Assistant Director for Academic Programs. And so I work a lot with assisting students through the application process and onboarding you once you're here and working as an advisor to the Mpi program. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and glad to see you all here.
Good morning, Chris. I'm Allison Schumacher. I'm Director of Academic Alchemy for the Da Vinci Center. So help run our academic programs, write new ones, work with our corporate sponsors for projects in our classes, teach in the master's program, and work as a mentor with our master's students, and a whole bunch of other stuff as we always have other duties as assigned. But thank you for being here. Really great to see you. And yeah, just for the second part of this, just to give a caveat, if you've already been to an info session, feel free to log off if you need to. We're not going to be offended. We know you already have the information, but yes, thank you. Take it away, Garrett.
Yeah. So one of the things that I appreciate most about the MPI program is that it's a cohort-based program. It's a small program. I love that we get to really know our students. We get to spend time with students in the program, and then it's been really fun in the last couple of years as the program has grown, knowing that it just started in 2012. We've really started to build this alumni network. And so it's great to have more engagement from alumni of the program. And we think there's no better sort of voice and person to hear from than people that have actually been through this program. And so Josh, super thrilled for you to come back and re-engage with us. Like we were saying, love to have you back to check out Shift and some of the other new spaces. There's even more new stuff in the works that we'll hear about shortly. But yeah. Would be curious just to, update folks. What have you been doing since you graduated from the MPI program?
Yeah, when I graduated the MPI program in 2018, I, had to stay back in Richmond and I actually continued on with the internship I had gotten with West Rock at the time. And then I was working there for another year or so, and I wanted to come back home to Northern Virginia. And so I actually was connected to a few folks from their Capital One in Richmond, which actually brought me to Capital One up here in McLean in their headquarter office. Worked there for about 2.5 years. Worked as a process manager there, worked actually in product there. And then recently, this past November, I was presented a new opportunity with Amazon Web Services to work at their new HQ office here at Pentagon City. And it was something I couldn't turn down, and I wanted, I always love new challenges, and I started that in November, and it's been, off to a great start. It's been crazy, always, working with different people, different stakeholders, but it's been a great experience so far, and I'm excited to really come back to talk to Da Vinci students, kind of giving my experience of what I've had at Da Vinci, but how it's really opened so many new doors for me in life. So excited to talk with everyone.
Yeah, I've been answering questions from folks about, and we've expanded it even since you were in the program, of giving people technical expertise. So Scrum Master training, we've been doing design thinking certification, product owner certification now. We had another one in change management. Can you talk maybe about how some of those what are some skills or tools that stand out to you that you gained through the program that you find yourself using in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, when I first joined the program, I think the first thing we were put was into a Scrum Certification training right off the bat. And I know that also is because we were also going to Italy at the time to join the European Innovation Academy. But, that Scrum Certification really kind of helped me kickstart my career, my schooling at Da Vinci, but also human-centered design thinking as well. Both those trainings and, through that schooling has helped me in my day-to-day job. especially with human-centered design thinking. Actually, I was not even familiar with human-centered design thinking until I got to DaVinci. And I'm able to apply that into my day-to-day job throughout, and even teaching others, my other colleagues, like, hey, this is how we should really look at a customer. We should really study their pain points, because this is going to be a better way for us to make a better product that's going to be used. A lot of times in the corporate world, they'll build products that, people just don't really use. And the reason why is because they never talk to their actual customer. And human-centered design thinking is all about, learning from your customer, understanding their pain points, and building around that. So I think those two, Scrum and human-centered design thinking really, I'm so thankful for that, because I use that day to day till this day now. So
that's awesome. We hear that that customer piece is something that we hear a lot, as do we hear the teaching colleagues. So it's cool to hear that from multiple alums that come back and talk about sharing those pieces with other people at work. That's high praise right there. I think, can you talk a little bit about, I think sometimes it's intimidating for people that because the program attracts people from different backgrounds, right? So you get people that had different undergraduate experiences, have different work experiences. Sometimes I think everyone is kind of left wondering, am I a good fit for the program? Because there is no sort of normal or typical student in DaVinci. Can you talk about what it's like to join a cohort of, peers from really different backgrounds and from different experiences, and how that manifests as a student actually in the program?
Yeah, it can be intimidating when you first hear about it, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to be with a certain amount of individuals who come from, like, an art background or an engineering background or just a design background. But it actually really helps you throughout your time at DaVinci, especially when you're working on group projects. You're learning a lot from your other individuals. Someone like me, I came in as a business side. I had no engineering or design side, but I learned so much from my peers, through our different group projects. And it would really help me out when I got to work. Like, for my work now, it's like, okay, I'm able to work with different colleagues and able to understand them a lot better, because I was actually with a bunch of peers who had different backgrounds. So it was really easy to just kind of coexist, collaborate easier. And I honestly wouldn't trade it for, like, I still think about, like, my one project I had done with Hamilton Beach, and, like, most of my teammates were, engineering design backgrounds. I think I was the only business one, but it was really great because I was able to, like, learn the engineering and the design side and talk to it, which is something that, you can't really, if you don't have that, like, kind of schooling beforehand, it's really hard to just kind of pick up on that. And I think DaVinci is really good at preparing, individuals when it comes to, hey, you're going to learn these different facets that will help pull everything together. So, I really think that it's a very unique thing to have, where you can have different individuals from different backgrounds, even art backgrounds. Some I remember, even I think one person had, like, a theater background, so it's just really cool to see how it all came together and how it all meshed.
Cool. What advice, or just sort of, people are obviously here because they're interested in the MPI program. Folks have either applied or in the process of applying or thinking about applying. What kind of advice would you give to people thinking about the program now that you've been out a couple of years, you've had some time to reflect about it? What you're a sage, old, wise alum now. What kind of advice would you give?
I think as soon as you get into the program, just start running, start meeting as many people as you can. The one thing about DaVinci is they're gonna present you so many options. They're gonna open doors for you, and it's gonna be on you to make those connections. You guys, one thing I would say is, like, and I'm very thankful to this day, is you guys gave us that hands-on experience of what it's going to be like working in a corporate world, or as yourself, if you want to be an entrepreneur. You gave us that hands-on experience, and that kind of, like, this is what it's going to be like day to day. And so what I encourage, a lot of the students now is, once you get that advantage, and once they open doors to you, to other companies to do group projects for, make sure you make those meaningful connections with those individuals, because you never know when maybe one day they might decide, okay, actually, we want you to work for us. Or, what, here, meet my colleague. They're looking for someone to add to their team. Or, we have another business, startup business right now that's currently working on an idea. Maybe your idea can actually coexist with them. So I always consistently tell this, and I know I've talked to Garrett about this, networking is very key at DaVinci. It's going to really open so many doors for you. So just hit the ground running, and constantly meet people.
I think that's good advice and something that we see and try and reinforce, which is I really believe in our curriculum, right? I think we have great faculty. I think we have great courses, but it's more than that, right? Like it's not just the time you spend in class and the time you spend doing assignments. There is so much more opportunity to practice your skills, get to know people, go to events and participate in things. And I think we see that over and over again. It's really a program where you get out what you put in. If you show up, if you take advantage of those, we get inundated. It's a great position. People reach out to DaVinci all the time. Do you have someone that could do this? Do you have someone that would be interested in this space? Do you know anyone that, and we are trying to play matchmaker all the time. And so the more opportunities that people can take advantage of, the better.
Yeah. And like, I even talked to other former DaVinci alumni about this. Like, DaVinci really does they'll open the doors for you. They'll provide you these companies. They'll provide you these startups. They're working on different products. You just have to now just go and just present yourself and make that connection. It's like, so I think back about it and I'm like, wow, like the amount of people I met in the span of, I did it in 13 months. I did the program 13 months. Like the amount of people I met in that 13 months was unbelievable. And so till this day, I still talk to them. So I really thank you guys for that. But also, yes, that's my advice to the students too.
Josh, I use you as an example regularly as like the master networker, the person who continuously, even after you were done with the program, you would come back and ask for more connections in a company that you wanted to work for. And that's open. Just because students graduate doesn't mean we disappear. Right. That support continues on, and it's part of the reason why we have such small cohorts. But I get to use you as an example fairly often for how well you just kind of locked into who you wanted to meet to figure out where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do for your profession. So I commend you there.
Thank you. And that's always my big advice to anyone in this world too. It's just, people you meet are going to be the ones who are going to also open doors for you. So consistently just continue to network. But overall, the program just provides so many resources. I mean, like, till this day, I still talk to even Jeff Hammond till this day. Before my interviews, I'm always talking with him to kind of just he'll put me through sometimes like a mock interview, but he'll just sometimes just talk to me, talk things out where we're like really strategizing, and just like how we used to do in class, strategize on certain topics. So. It's just, you're going to build connections that you're going to always live with. So.
Great. I want to make sure that folks that are here have a chance to ask questions too. So what questions for folks that have joined us here tonight? What questions do you have for Josh?
And feel free to unmute and ask or type them in the chat, whatever feels more comfortable.
Do you think that through the VCU program, you learned more of the skills necessary for like initiating discussions about product design and project management in a professional setting? Or do you think you maybe had these skills before the program?
That's a good question, actually, Lena. I think, when I came into DaVinci, I didn't really have that product/project management background. I had actually a sales background. So I kind of actually picked it up more at DaVinci. I was able to really, especially being in that setting where DaVinci put you in a setting where you have to work with a corporate company, a Fortune 500 company. So you're already just consistently working with their top execs, figuring out, okay, this is how we're going to manage this project for a 4-month period of time. And you're constantly emailing them back and forth. So it kind of, you just learn it when you're at DaVinci, and you'll pick it up. And it sounds nerve-wracking when we're talking about it right now, but it really isn't. When you get there, you'll get comfortable because DaVinci has already prepped you even through the start of the program to really prepare you for that experience. So, but that's the one thing that makes this program so unique compared to other programs at VCU. Like they're giving you that hands-on experience so that you're able to go to the next job interview and talk about that experience. Because till this day, my job interviews, I've talked about the projects actually I've worked on with Hamilton Beach or World Pediatric Project. Like, I've talked about those in my interviews because those are real hands-on experience that shows, as someone who's in product or project management, this is what I did, this is how I came in, this is how I changed how they did their process and what I implemented it. So I definitely think that that's something you can definitely pick up when you're in Da Vinci for sure. And I know
Can you talk more about that? Because I think it's something we see for some folks that are used to taking tests to know that they learned things, right? And I think that can be jarring sometimes. Like, how do you know you've learned product management? Like, if we don't give you a test where we can tell you that you got 80% of the questions right, how did that show up for you? I mean, where in the program did it start to suddenly dawn on you that you had picked up these skills, that you knew how to speak the language? Can you talk about moments where you realized that you had learned something?
Yeah, I think moments where I learned something, especially was when we worked with World Pediatric Project group. Like, their company they were really looking for a change and shift in their whole processes. And even us coming into it, we were like, wow, this is a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do. And we kind of came in as also consultants too, in a way, like advising them on other things. And I think I remember going into that, I was like, I don't know how we're going to be able to help them, but we did. We came up with many different options for them to pivot and pick which routes they can go to. And I think that's when I realized, oh, wow, I'm actually picking this up a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. Like, I'm like, wow, we're coming up with solutions. We're coming up with different ideas that are going to obviously solve what they're looking for. And then even when we worked on building the indoor planter system for Hamilton Beach, I think seeing the finished prototype product that we built for them, that really was like, okay, we're getting this down. Like, I'm actually understanding product and how to take it from an ideation to a real actual product. So I think that's when really it was clicking for me.
Cool. There's a question in the chat about working while doing the program. So the question is, are people able to work full time while doing the 13-month track?
So yeah, I'm unique. I actually was able to work full time. At the time, my company was in Arlington, but they had a Richmond market. And so I actually was able to work the Richmond market. But what I would do is I'd go up to work on Mondays, come down early. I'd leave work at 2 o'clock, get to Richmond by 4 to make it to my 5 o'clock class. And then on Fridays, I'd go back because we had class, I think, Monday through Thursday. So I was able to work full time and be able to get it done. So it really helped with also paying for school. But I think you can definitely, if I was able to do it, I think that you could definitely get it done as well. And Da Vinci, you guys were also very understanding of when people had work, because what was also helpful for me at work, I was able to implement things I was learning at school to my job. So that was also really cool. And also kind of gave me oh, well, Josh is learning something, let's give him that's another bump for his performance there. So it actually it worked out hand in hand. So
nice. And I think there are those pros and cons, right? I think there are some people that while working full time has its own pressures, there's that ability to take what you're learning in the program and directly apply it at work, which can be its own kind of experiential learning. And for folks that are working part-time or not working while they're going through the program, there are those other opportunities that Da Vinci affords you to practice that in other settings. So, I don't think there's a right way to do it. I mean, again, this is what we really try and create as many pathways for as many different types of people as possible. And so that's why you'll hear some students that are like, yeah, I worked and I was driving back to class and then I was implementing it at work. And you'll find other people that do graduate assistantships with us and their on-campus job is working in this shift retail lab and they're doing special projects or they're co-teaching design thinking with me, or they're doing these other things that give you that applied experience that is similar to what other students are doing while they work. Those are good questions. Are there other questions from folks that are here that, well, we've got Josh?
I'm curious. I have a question that I want to ask Josh. Josh, you said are you a senior learning?
Yeah.
So tell me more about your current job and what that means, because there's learning in the job title, and I'm just curious as to what that actually means at Amazon. Uh-oh.
We lost your sound, Josh.
Sorry, at Capital One, I was a senior learning associate.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I got that wrong.
And to kind of give more context into that job, Capital One has like their own learning department where we help their tech associates get certified in AWS Cloud, all the different certification, cloud practitioner, or if people want to get certified in like machine learning, data, like just all the different areas. So we were called Tech College. Tech College, we provide all the different resources to provide to our tech associates to help them, increase their learning and in their job functions. And so I had built out a product at the time. It was called Learning League to kind of gamify but make their learning fun. Because some people are like, all right, I have to study for this, certification exam, cloud certification exam. And it's like, you want to kind of make their learning fun to kind of increase their learning and to make them still keep learning more. And what we saw from that, creating that platform was that it actually increased the certifications that were getting achieved in overall Capital One. So with the tech associates, but it was actually a great experience because you realize like, oh wow, what I'm building right now is actually helping the company because it's saving the company from getting external hires and talent to help really boost their their employee base. So
it's really fascinating look into Capital One where you are able to build products that only serve the internal group. It's not necessarily external to be able to make money, but it makes your environment better. And then also working with AWS to then transfer and move to Amazon after that. That's a great precursor for that.
Yeah, and with AWS now, I'm working more with their sales team. Sales team, which I'm very used to understanding the, how salespeople think, and building out a tool that really helps them kind of achieve their goals of getting close to closing their business of sale a lot faster than they normally do. So it's a product I'm currently working on right now. But so I've been really working more with internal customers, and hopefully from here, go to like an external customer for Amazon. So
very cool. Moving from packaging to fintech to I guess more information technology.
More information technology. Yeah, cool. I've definitely have I'll say definitely a different experience of a background here from packaging to fintech to information-based technology. So
shows a lot of versatility.
You guys teach us how to pivot a lot, I'm able, that's where I really got it from. So
cool. Well, Josh, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your perspective. It's always valuable to have people come back, and absolutely, next time you come to Richmond, we've got to get you in the shift. You got to see all the other cool stuff that's coming.
And I definitely will be there soon. So yes, I'll definitely stop by. But thank you so much.
We'll do it. Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
So, thank you all for attending this part. Before we transition over to Allison and Mary Chris to share more of the details of the program, just wanted to open it up to, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to jump off and let Mary Chris and Allison walk you through the specifics. But again, as the executive director of the Da Vinci Center, I'm happy to answer any questions about the master's program, about Da Vinci in general.
Well, Garrett, before you take off, I think it's important to make, I guess, more of a note of the space that your background is currently of, and our newest part of Da Vinci, which is something like that hasn't been seen in the rest of the country, and it's pretty cool because why not hype the new space?
Yeah, no, thanks for the softball, Allison. So behind me is the Shift Retail Lab and Student Storefront at VCU. This has been a really exciting project for us. So as Allison alluded to, it's the first of its kind in the whole country. It provides students an opportunity to develop new products and services, put them on the shelf, and engage with real customers in the real world. And one of the most interesting parts to me about this space is I think about it in the context of education, that when we taught hard sciences, when we taught chemistry and biology, we had laboratories where students learned key concepts of chemistry and then went into a chemistry lab and practiced chemistry. And we've not had that for so many other disciplines that I think really benefit from that ability to directly apply knowledge. And so the language is intentional. We call it a retail lab because this is a laboratory equivalent of what we're teaching in the classroom. So if we're teaching you about how to engage with prospective customers and how to do listening and build empathy and how to look at a minimum viable product and feature sets, there's no better way to do it than to actually do it in a storefront. So we're running a program now where we have shelfies. Shelfies are 4-week sprints where student founders at VCU who are developing new products and services actually go through a boot camp experience with us and then put their products on the shelf. We have a program called Feedback Fridays, where the public comes in and actually provides feedback to students on early stage prototypes and in some cases products. And our graduate students have the ability to, one, work in this space. So we have graduate students that run operations for this space, that run business development for the space, that do design for the space. So our students in the master's program really take ownership for helping us facilitate some of this, as well as have the ability to sell their own products and services. So for example, Julian has been working in the space in Shift since it began, but he's also the founder of a jackfruit jerky company, and he makes his own vegan jerky product. And we've been using that as a catering product for events in the Shift space. It's been on the shelf. It's in the first Shelfie cohort so that people can come in and buy and taste his different flavors. And so in his coursework, he's learning about packaging and design and all of these elements that then he's incorporating and actually doing it in the retail lab. And not everyone in the program has their own side hustle or their own venture. We don't expect everyone to have their own passion project the whole time they're in the program, but your classmates will, and other students will, and then we invite outside partners in. One of the outside ventures that has been in the lab recently is going through a pretty major transition and is going to announce some pretty exciting external investment in their company and scaling up of their company, and they were able to start in the retail lab. So you get to really see it come to life. And so this space is being used for VCU basketball tailgates. It's doing food, it's doing entertainment, it's doing tech. And so we love that this is a classroom. We call it the classroom for the future. And it's really exciting that we have a space like this connected immediately to our other classroom spaces, I should add. So faculty offices, classroom spaces, and the retail lab are in one footprint for the Da Vinci Center. And that allows us some real flexibility around what education looks like from a product innovation standpoint. I get excited about it. I could keep going on about it all night, Allison. You guys have to stop me now.
I know. Well, I'm going to drop the Shift webpage in the chat here. So anyone who's interested to find more information, they can go watch our promo video and see some of the details of how we're setting up our first cohorts of Shelfies coming into the lab now that the doors are open. Also encourage anyone who's local to come in for Feedback Fridays. Garrett, which Friday is it? Is it every Friday?
It is not every Friday. The schedule is on the Shift website.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, if you want to come give feedback on products that our students are currently showing in Shift Lab, come by, see the space. We're happy to give you a tour.
And the space is open Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and those hours specifically are on the website. Those are new this semester, so I don't want to misquote them, but they are open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So take a look at the website and you can drop by and see the space yourself if you're in the area.
And anybody who is watching this recording, you can go to the Da Vinci website, just Da Vinci Center, all one word, .vcu.edu/shift, and it will take you straight there.
And an important note that is a unique aspect of this is that for students that do sell product out of the space, students keep 100% of the proceeds. So this is not a situation where VCU or Da Vinci is taking any kind of cut. You have the ability to put your product on the shelf and keep 100% of what you're selling, as well as to use the space to host your own events to do selling out of. So you can use it to do a pop-up and do a takeover for the weekend. Really different than a stall at the farmer's market, right? Like a 2,700 square foot, climate controlled, really phenomenal 21st century space at your disposal, and you keep everything. So really excited to bring this as a component of the program, and have been excited for the students that have already been able to use it in their time at VCU. Any other questions for me? All right, well, you'll hear this from Allison and Mary Chris throughout the presentation. We do this because we really love students. We believe in getting to work with individuals. And so if you have anyone has additional questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to any of us. We're happy to do one-on-one conversations. If people have specific questions, we can point you to the right team member, faculty member, administrator, anyone on our team that we think can give you the best answer to what you're looking for. But don't be shy. We really encourage you to reach out. That's why we're here. We really enjoy doing this. So I'm going to leave you all in great hands with Allison and Mary Chris, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Garrett. Thank you. All right, Mary Chris, you want to share slides? There we go. Excellent. Okay, so this is a lot of information, and I believe some of you may have already come to some info sessions. So if there's not a lot that's new here in terms of that information, but I want to make sure that we give you all the updates and information about who we are and what we do. So really just to give you a background on what DaVinci is, we do undergraduate and graduate programs. The undergraduates are in product innovation, venture creation, and human-centered design. Those are courses and certificate programs that undergraduates can take, but I kind of think of the master's program in product innovation as a combination of all three of those things, but elevated to a graduate level of, I guess, complexity or challenge. Then we have the MPI. The MPI is really our flagship program, and the one that we really try to provide the most support as we can to our students. Our undergrads have majors in other areas. They have advisors and those kinds of things. Of course, we are there for them. But being an MPI, that means your major is essentially housed directly in the DaVinci Center. We provide mentorship all throughout the program and lots of other resources, as Josh and Garrett talked about. The newest program that we have launched is a graduate certificate in healthcare innovation. It's a 12-credit certificate, and the courses are split between the MPI program and the nursing leadership program, their master's program over there. And I'll get into those details in a little while, or on the next slide. There we go. So the Master of Product Innovation, really, if you're coming in the summer, it's a 13-month program. If you're coming in the fall, it's generally an 18-month program. You can extend it and do it part-time, which Mary Chris will talk more about in a little while. And we do have students who have done it over 2 years. If you go to our YouTube channel and you find the interview that we did for an info session with Isaiah Harvin, you can hear his perspective in how he did the program part-time over the course of 2 years. And it was great. He got to meet 2 cohorts and really got to increase that networking. Everything we do is cross-disciplinary and team-based and experiential. We want to make sure that you are doing as you are learning, so that that learning is a lot deeper. And you really get into a lot of topics in terms of advanced product innovation. We'll teach you the basics too, but really getting into how do you develop products that people will love. And then you also get the side of entrepreneurship. So, really the fall being more about industry and the corporate side of things, and the spring being more about your experience as an entrepreneur, because that mindset, the entrepreneurship mindset, is exactly what so many companies are looking for. And it's not about necessarily having to run your own business. It's about being able to recognize where problems are and where change needs to happen, and then being able to take the steps forward in order to make something successful and solve for those problems. It's really where that mindset sits. The graduate certificate in healthcare innovation, just in case we have people who are interested in solving problems for healthcare. This is a program where we have a massive health system at VCU, and we started talking to a lot of care providers, pre-COVID, and really trying to understand how much of healthcare really needs to change, and how many products there really are that could be developed to help everyday work in healthcare systems. So we, talking to MBAs and other students, graduate level students who are interested in being in healthcare, but not really understanding how regulations work, how, leadership structures work, and those kinds of things in the health system. We understood we had both sides. We had, healthcare providers too, that didn't know the product side, but wanted to know more about innovation, wanted to know more about entrepreneurship and how to actually launch a product. So we have people from both groups that come together in these courses. Sometimes we have healthcare students that are directly in the courses alongside our MPIs, but may not be an MPI. And then likewise, our students go over to the School of Nursing and take courses in their leadership program. So this is 12 credit hours. It is also cross-disciplinary. So, but there's no additional cost for MPI. So if you wanted to do both of these programs, your 6 credits in nursing would apply as your 6 credits for the Master of Product Innovation, your elective courses. And it's the same cost no matter what. So you're not paying anything additional to complete 2 programs. I will give a caveat here that the MPI program has flat tuition. So as long as you are in 9 credits, that is your full tuition, but you can take 12 or 15 credits and not be billed anymore for tuition. There might be fees and those kinds of things, but you have it open to you to be able to take additional courses if you want to fill in some other gaps or you have some other interests at the university. All right, next one, there we go. So with this is an example of a summer start. It's the way the program was designed to truly be 13 months, but we found a really great balance to have students start in the fall too. And we'll have Mary Chris talk about that in a minute. But I want to go through the classes just so you understand kind of where these experiences are happening and what it looks like. And I'll try my best to be brief. I am a details person and man, I could talk forever about this stuff. It's where my passion lies. So in 0600, is generally that is when we go to Italy or Portugal for the European Innovation Academy, COVID permitting. So far, VCU is still allowing for study abroad programs come this summer, and we really hope that that is something that we get to engage in again, just as long as it's safe. It won't be required for the program for anyone to travel abroad. It will be at your own comfort level. If you wish to go, I'll be going with you if it's permitted. Which is really great. But the European Innovation Academy is basically a 3-week fire hose of information where you learn so much about product and entrepreneurship. You go there, you form a team of 5 from, people from 65 different nationalities. You are mentored by people from Amazon and Google and Twitter and Ducati and like name a big company. And they have people there training the students and working directly with them as mentors throughout those 3 weeks. You go from idea to startup in those 3 weeks. So you start with an idea, you vet it, you do your prototyping, you do your marketing, and you actually pitch to investors in the end. So it is just kind of this fire hose effect. We don't necessarily expect you to start a business with 4 people you just met, but it is a really great experience to kind of see the whole cycle in a very short period of time. It is intense and it is an incredible experience to have that and to do it in another country where you're just perpetual state of problem solving. The in 0691, it's listed here as 3 credits with that star there as recommended electives. We actually offer a series of these are topics courses that we offer each summer. We'll do things like Garrett talked about, Scrum Master Certification, UX UI or user experience, user interface, user-based research. We'll do intellectual property protection, those kinds of things to where you can pick and choose what your interests are and put those together for 3 credits of elective if you like. You could just take 1 or 2 if you want to. If you plan to do the healthcare certificate, we can help you kind of form your path and your map for where you want to go in the program. Let's see. So we are also offering currently, I guess up till this summer, it will still be a 691 class or a topics course, but it will become its own class come the fall semester. But it is a course that goes through all of those human-centered design certifications that Garrett was talking about, and just learning the basics of human-centered design and change management and that kind of stuff, taught by someone who does this in real life, who uses human-centered design, teaches it to other people and implements it within their own team. So all of our faculty do this stuff in real life and also teach in the program, so they can give a lot of really great examples of how these things work in the real world. And speaking to that, so the 501, 502, 503, and 590 courses, 501 is the arts and design course, 502 is the business, and 503 is engineering. If you're coming from an arts background, you don't have to take the arts and design course, but we do recommend it. We're teaching this stuff from purely a product perspective and really thinking about innovation through these courses. But again, it is up to you whether or not you take all 3 of those courses, as if you're coming from arts or business or engineering that align with those specific subjects. Outside of that, we can talk details later. But again, super fabulous faculty that really have experience in this stuff. Let's see, the 590 course is the one that I teach. This is, I guess, if you go to EIA or you experience a project over the summer, it might be your second project. If you're starting in the fall, it'll be your first project. And this is where I want to share a couple examples of the things that we do. So in 590, I'm going out throughout the year and trying to find innovation, product innovation projects from corporate sponsors, from local startups, from nonprofits. We try to really create a large selection of different projects, and the students get to vote on which ones they want to be on, and we try to form those teams according to the skill set and preference in that as best we can, and give you a little challenge. And one of those challenges that it's probably one of my favorite stories of success that our students have seen coming out of this class is a product called Pocket Protector, or Pocket Pro, I guess, as they call it. We partnered with a cardiac surgeon here in Richmond who had an idea to try to prevent hematoma after the implantation of a pacemaker. And so I'm guessing that most of the thoughts that are going through your head and working on a project that are similar to the graduate students who came from backgrounds in graphic design, tourism and hospitality, and a biomedical engineer who hadn't really created too many physical prototypes in his life. And they looked at me like I was crazy when I put them on this team. But these students were able to scrub up, go into the actual surgery room with this doctor and witness how this went. They built a sensor that helps understand how much pressure needs to be applied to prevent a hematoma. And just for context of what a hematoma is, when you get a pacemaker, they cut a pocket in your pectoral muscle to put the battery that then connects to your heart to be able to provide the jump. So sometimes about 2% of that time, that pocket fills with blood and plasma and then starts to swell and then become bruised, and that's a hematoma. So these students figured out that the current solutions of using the 10 to 15 pound sandbag on a person's chest, or a ball of gauze that they just tape down really hard, that those either don't work, or they don't work effectively, or can cause more harm. So the gauze doesn't work at all. It does not provide enough pressure. And the tape can tear the skin of older patients. And then on top of that, with a 10 to 15 pound sandbag, they did verify that that is the right amount of pressure. But what happens when you put a 10 to 15 pound sandbag on a person's chest who needs a pacemaker, and then they can't get up and walk around for a couple of days? Talking about pneumonia starts to develop, you get high readmission rates and those kinds of things, which no hospital wants to see. So these students built basically a device that goes across your chest, attaches onto the side, has an air bladder right above where that surgery or that incision would be, and then uses a pump similar to what you would use with to take your blood pressure to inflate it. And then the little sensor tells you if it's 10 to 15 pounds of pressure. And then you can get that patient can get up and walk around and breathe more normally than it would be if they had to be laying down and have that sandbag. So that's a great solution. But the best thing about this is that these students then formed a legal company with this cardiac surgeon. He doesn't have time to be an entrepreneur. They were accepted into Mass Challenge Accelerator down in Austin, Texas. And now this is a product that they've patented and is being licensed. They do not want to run a healthcare company, but they get to get royalties from from licensing out this particular patent piece of intellectual property, which is pretty cool. None of them expected to be able to create a healthcare product within a 15-week time period, but they did an excellent job, and it's definitely one of my favorite stories. But for sake of time, I can share lots of these stories if anybody wants to hear more about the types of things that we develop. It's not all healthcare products. This last semester, let's see if I can think through my brain fog at the moment this late in the evening, really developing things we did have healthcare products that were in there, but also, developing things that digital products. I have to be careful about what I can say about some of these projects. They're pretty protected, but developing digital products, so online tools, applications, those kinds of things. Really a wide span of the different type of product content that can be considered product. And so we explore all those different types of things, but lining up different projects. So even if you're on one team, you get to see the pathway and the process that other teams are using for different types of products and be part of that conversation, not just in my class, but also in the 502 class that pairs up to help align the work that's being done in 590 with the business side of things, so that you're moving your product forward and can really make the case for it to become a real thing after the course is over. That is the point. We don't want you working on something for the sake of just working on it. The point is for it to become real and actually have an impact in these companies. Okay, so quickly, that's the corporate side, where we're bringing in people from corporate. We're talking about product design and innovation through the corporate lens really in the fall. And then come in the spring when you're in INO 651, this is a 6-credit class. It's the beginning. It's the first half of the capstone. And that is where you bring your idea in. You partner with a fellow MPI. You borrow an idea from a local startup or help them with a problem that they're working on, but do that independently. You may be borrowing an idea from our health system or our tech transfer office. So there's lots of ideas. We're working with NASA, all kinds of places. You don't have to bring in a product idea, but you do have to take a product idea, from its inception and work it towards commercialization as part of that development of your entrepreneurship skills. And we have, mentors and faculty that continue to work with you the entire time you're in that course. And we help you meet your needs, map what your goals need to be, and then keep you working towards those goals so you can be successful in the end of that. You can also fill in an elective. So if you're not taking the healthcare certificate, Mary Chris has a heck of a list of electives that are available throughout the university in different departments. We offer other electives too. Sometimes we have people do prototyping. We can bring those summer topics and expand upon them and get further into UX UI. The guy who teaches 502 right now also teaches UX UI in the School of the Arts, and we have a lot of students that do independent studies with him. Or if you have your own research topic that you want to get into, you can do an independent study with one of us at the Da Vinci Center too, and really dive deep. Then in the summer, for the second half of your capstone, there's a few different ways you could go with this. So you can either continue your 651 project. The committee approves you to move forward. You made it far enough with your business. You can continue to work on your business for your full time that you're in the program. You do not have to live in Richmond for any of these options. But you can continue 651. You can do an internship in the product space at a company. Again, don't have to live in Richmond for this. And then, or third, you can do a traditional master's thesis, which no one ever does because this is an applied program. We've had a couple people who have explored that option, but then they end up with an amazing internship or get invited to be a co-founder of a company, and they abandon the thesis idea and continue with one of the other options, either internship or their work. So a couple electives, areas to span out beyond this curriculum, but also making sure you're getting that cross-disciplinary and applied experience.
And just a quick note, if anyone is thinking more about the fall than the summer, essentially what that looks like is you start in the fall, and that summer semester where you see summer 22 slides down where you see summer 23. And then you just take that final capstone that Allison was just describing, where you choose an internship or continuing with your business or the thesis that no one ever picks, but you do that in the fall. So essentially it's the same thing you're seeing here. You just move the summer 22 down to where the summer 23 is, and know that you would do your 652 in the fall. So that's what more of the 18-month version of the program looks like. I also wanted to take a moment because we do get asked a lot what it would look like if you were to go part-time in the program. And so this is just one example of what that could look like. The way our courses are sequenced, those 500 series courses are only offered in the fall. And so you'll see you kind of spread those out over 2 falls. But this is looking at taking 6 credits at a time and being a part-time student. I do always like to just point out that the 2 capstones, the 651, which is that first part of the entrepreneurship work, and then that final capstone are both 6 credit classes. So you'll have less time that you're physically in the classroom those semesters, but be doing a great deal of work outside of the class. So this is just one example of what it could look like. Where you see those electives plugged in, those can move around. You can start this kind of part-time sequence in the summer and take some of those great trainings that Allison mentioned, like the Scrum training. So there's a lot of flexibility in this. We just get asked a lot what it kind of looks like to go part-time. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a visual on that. Also, I'll mention, Josh talked about being able to work and go to our program. So if that is something you're considering, our courses are in the evening. So anything that we offer through Da Vinci, so all of the INNO coded classes, all typically fall in that 6 to 8:40 block. Sometimes in the summer, they creep back to 5 o'clock a little bit, just because it's a lot of material to cover in a short time. But we're very conscious of keeping them after 5 o'clock. The electives, if you went the route of the healthcare certificate, those are online asynchronous. So those work really well. If you're picking a class from another department, I can't guarantee that it's going to be a night class, but I will say that we have not had students having problems finding electives that align with an evening schedule. So just to relieve any fears that you might have there, it is possible to do in the evening.
I should note too, I don't think I mentioned, but those summer courses, the 1 credit summer courses we offer, the 691s, those are usually 2 to 3 week courses. The Scrum Master certification is generally 4 days. We may move it to product owner for the class this summer, and then just give you Scrum training, pay for you to have Scrum training in the fall, just so you know some considerations. But those 1-credit courses are quick. They take some long hours each day that they're offered, but they do give you graduate credit really quickly.
Yeah. And from there, I'm just going to move on into how you apply to our program. And so we do have a deadline coming up. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But just want to make everyone aware, if you are on our webpage, which is just davinci.vcu.edu, I always tell people I just Google VCU DaVinci, it pops right up. But you're going to click on the graduate header, choose the Master of Product Innovation, and then click Apply Now. We wanted to give you this little screenshot here. It does take you out to another site that is housed by the grad school that houses all graduate applications for any program at VCU, so it does look a little bit different. And just to make you aware, the summer and the fall applications are both live now. So just making sure when you go to that you're choosing summer versus fall, depending on when you're planning to apply. And then you just start the application from there. And then what you would need to submit, so we do have our deadline for summer coming up of February 15th. If you're here and you're thinking about fall, that deadline is going to be May 15th. But by the February 15th deadline, since we are now officially in February, as of today, I think, right? This is what we need. And I just want to alleviate a little bit of fear around like the level of detail that's needed here on this application. You do have to have your statement of intent done and uploaded, as well as a resume, current and uploaded. You need to have the names and email addresses of 3 references. So we don't have to have those references uploaded to the system. You don't have to collect them and upload them yourself or anything like that. Just the names and email addresses. What you can let people who have agreed to be references for you know is that they will receive an email with a form that they answer some questions, and then there's a place for them to upload a reference letter for you. We do need to get 2 of those in before we can evaluate to move on to the interview stage, but you do not have to have any of them in on the 15th. You just have to enter names and email addresses. Similarly, for transcripts, you just have to enter the request in the system for your undergraduate transcripts. There's a place where you can upload an unofficial transcript. So if you have the ability to get a PDF of an unofficial transcript from your college, from your undergraduate degree, that would be great. We can go ahead and start looking at that. But all that we have to have is the request entered in the application system. We are no longer requiring, I'll kind of skip down to that last item, we are no longer requiring standardized testing for any students. And I do think that this may be a little bit different than what is potentially listed on the application form when you go in. We can only update that at certain points of the year. So we are no longer requiring GRE, GMAT, do not feel any pressure to do that. We temporarily suspended that during COVID, as did many graduate programs, because it was just really difficult to get the test and get the scores. And what we found is what we had always suspected, which it wasn't making a big difference in the quality of students we accepted. So we are not requiring that. We also no longer require a portfolio, and this is different than what you see on the website. So because we're not requiring GRE and GMAT for students coming from business engineering or humanities backgrounds, we used to require a portfolio for students coming from an art and design background in lieu of those test scores, but we no longer require that either. So you don't have to submit a portfolio. That being said, we would love to see a portfolio from all students. And I don't want that to feel intimidating. If you are coming from an art and design background and you have a portfolio, amazing, submit that. If you're coming from a different background, a business, engineering, humanities, a professional background, we would love to see examples of work that you've created. If you've created a training in a job that you're in, or you have a paper or project from undergrad that involved a lot of research that you're really proud of, or if you have work that you do outside of your work or outside of your undergraduate school where maybe you have been an entrepreneur or you're a maker or a photographer, we would love to see you share that, because what we are really going for in this application process, while it can feel very formal to go through all these systems, is we want to know who you are as a person. And so if you have, for example, a website that showcases who you are and some work that you've done and has a great about statement that tells us a little bit about you, we would love to see that. So, just sharing that can be a supplemental material that you share with us that we would enjoy seeing. If you would like to submit that also does not have to be done right on the 15th. That is something that you would send, much like we were requesting the design portfolio previously. You would email it to me and I would add it to your application packet. You can email a PDF portfolio, you can send a link to a website. Any of these things are appropriate. And you can send that on the 15th, or you can send it just a bit after. There's not like a specific place you have to put that on the formal application. So just wanted to encourage that if that is something that you would like to submit to help us get to know you a little bit better. We really value getting to know the humans that are trying to come into our program. And so we value your personal statement, what your references have to say, your portfolio, an interview when you come in and talk with us. We're going to put a lot more weight on that to get to know you again than we ever were necessarily on the test scores. And I also always encourage students, if your GPA wasn't exactly like what you were hoping it would be in undergrad, please don't let that deter you from applying either. We understand that circumstances happen, and I always encourage students to address that in an interview or letter if they're comfortable doing that. But please do not let that stop you from applying if this is something that is interesting to you. And one last, go ahead. Yep.
Go ahead. Nope, I'll let you finish.
I was just gonna say one last thing I'm gonna say about all of this is there is an application fee. And if for any reason that feels like a barrier to submitting your application, please send me an email. I will try to drop my email in the chat when I stop screen sharing. But we are happy to offset that. And definitely 100% if you decide you want to do healthcare certificate and the MPI, it is 2 separate applications and it is 2 application fees. Please do not pay that twice. Please let us know. Yeah.
I wanted to add, Josh that we just heard from was actually the first business student to ever submit a portfolio. So he came to us with the innovative idea of, I don't want to go take the GREs. I don't think that that's where my strengths are. Can I show you my strengths through another thing? And he ended up recording a couple of pitches that he had made through his job in the 4 years from when he was an undergrad to just being employed before coming to the MPI. And it was super impressive. And I think that's just such a more clear way of showing a skill set than it is to just take a standardized test. So yeah, GPAs, GREs are not our focus. It's definitely the human that you are. And we are very conscious about how we form these cohorts, trying to make sure that we have a good balance of people from different backgrounds. We've had some stellar applicants that didn't make it into the program, and others that, we were just really trying to make sure we knew that they would be a good fit and that they would develop greatly in the program in the midst of the other students that we were bringing in. So we are very deliberate about that process. And again, none of this, we don't want any of this to be intimidating. Before you get into the program or while you're in the program, the whole point is just kind of help you explore where you want to go and give us enough information so we can help you get there.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing there. I will, like I said, put my email in the chat if you have any questions, but we're also happy to take any questions that anyone has.
While anyone is thinking of a question, I wanted to add something which we're going to queue up to put in the presentation in the next round. But we do have other spaces. So right now we're offering online. You can just interview with us after you submit your application. We can do the interview via Zoom, or if you would rather do that at VCU or come for a tour before or after interviews, we're absolutely happy to do that. That's not a problem at all. Beyond the shift space, we also have another space that is really closed to anyone except for students. But all students in Da Vinci have key card access 24/7 to this space, and there's study spaces, but there's also a maker space. So, very large tables for people to lay things out and make 3D printers, laser cutters, 3D scanners, a Cricut maker, which is fantastic if you're trying to make products and packaging, all kinds of stuff, woodworking tools, there's supplies and those kinds of things there that students can use openly and freely at their discretion. And we do provide trainings for these things. So if you don't know how to use a piece of equipment, we can definitely have someone train you, but also that's another GA position that we hire for. So if you are a person who enjoys working with your hands or making, or wants to learn more about 3D printing and using laser cutters, you can become that GA and we can get you trained to where then you're training other students on those kinds of things. But that is a paid position that we do offer. Okay, so this is relative. So the question that just popped into the chat for those who are potentially watching this later, how long does it take to receive a decision after all the materials have been submitted and interviews complete? So one of the longest things that we usually wait for is for those 2 letters of recommendation to come in so that we can do the committee can do the evaluation to decide whether or not to bring you in for an interview. Then Stephanie Danis, our stellar office manager, she usually reaches out to you to schedule that interview. We bring the committee together, have the interview. But to answer your question directly, it depends on when your interview is. So if you were to submit your application now, you have a better chance of getting into the cohort of 20 before it fills. So the earlier you apply, the better. But the earlier you apply, the longer the wait is. And so we try to give people feedback as soon as we can, but come, March time, where we've really had an opportunity to interview a lot of the students coming in for the summer, we can start giving those answers relatively quickly. Sometimes we just know that you're a good fit from that, and we can try to fire off an acceptance as quickly as we can. But really, we have to make sure that we have enough people interviewed that make sure we're developing a really good cohort. I would say, I don't know, Mary Chris, what do you think our average is? Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month.
I think that's accurate. And I would just say, if you have reasons that you need to hear more quickly, if you're deciding between different programs and you haven't heard back from us, we'll do our best to get you a decision a little more quickly. So I would just say we would encourage you to communicate throughout that process. But yeah, I would say 2 to 4 weeks is a really good estimate, but please just communicate if you need an answer more quickly. We can try to help you with that.
Happy to be flexible. Any other questions?
I was
I
wondering.
have a question about the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just quickly, I was wondering if the program offers like Adobe Creative Cloud software or discounts to programs for it.
That is free for everyone in the program. So as long as you are enrolled in a course at VCU and you are a Da Vinci student, you get Adobe for free.
Okay, thank you.
Soon, we're hoping that Adobe will just be free for all VCU students. But right now, we pay for that to make sure that you have access. Yep. Yep. And Susan?
Yeah, so relative to the GA positions, just thinking about realistically, because I looked on the application and I did see that was a required question. Obviously, I work full time, so I'm interested at the thought of GA position and being able to really, dig in and learn a skill at a high level, but just wondering if that's really feasible for someone who's also working full time, and what kind of, I guess, time is going to be required for a GA position.
Sure. I think it kind of depends. So these, Mary Chris too, she's a manager of several GAs as well. So we have lots of different needs for the center, and we try to align those with what students want to learn. Generally, our GAs work, 10 to 20 hours per week, 20 max. And so we do have some positions where students don't work a lot of hours because either the 12 credits they're taking in the fall is so much that they have to prioritize the work for their courses. They may do some recruitment events for us or GA for a class to help with mentoring undergraduate students or grading or helping to teach in those courses, which won't require as much time. But generally, we send out the options for jobs after students have been accepted to the program. But that's not just the only set of jobs that can happen. So we had an individual who we saw had an amazing skill set, and we all kind of wanted to be able to borrow from that skill set. And we ended up creating a unique position to fit him as an individual. So those things can exist. So it kind of depends, I guess, on how much you think you can work in the capacity that you have. That can change throughout your time. If you get into you get a GA position, you get into the program, and you realize, whoa, this is way too much with my full-time job, just communicate that to us. And that's not a problem. Either we can pass the duties on to someone else, or we can just try to be more flexible with the time and requirements that you're working. We do have students who just work remotely. They work on, grading or evaluating the badges and that kind of stuff that we offer, the credentials that we offer to students. So, if you want to learn basic pitch skills, we have an online credential, and then our students produce a outcome for that. And then that outcome is then evaluated by a student worker or one of our GAs. So yeah, there's some flexibility. I think we should just, bring it up when you interview, or I'm going to say when you interview, Susan. You've been looking at this program for a long time, so I'm going to say when you interview, bring that up. And if you have things, what was that?
Oh no, I was laughing, saying thanks. Okay.
Yeah, just when you interview, bring that kind of stuff up and think about the types of things you might want to explore, and that plants a seed with us. So if the acceptance comes through, then we can start planning around that a little bit and be flexible to your skill set and what you want to learn.
Yes, and I will also just say for anyone, like, saying yes to that question on the application is not obligating you to 100% definitely do a graduate assistantship. So if you're on the fence and you're like, I would like to keep this option open, it's better to default to say yes and tell us what some of your skills and interests are than to say no. I mean, we can work with you either way. Like, you can say no and then you can change your mind. But I would say say yes. So we'll know you're in the pool of people that would like to be included in information about graduate assistantships. But if you then decide it's going to be too much, that is completely fine. That question is more of a kind of tracking thing for us to know who's interested.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. Any other questions? Got another one in the chat. Are there any scholarships that you can apply for once accepted to the program? Great question and great phrasing. So yeah, we do sometimes offer, depending on our giving. So we have very generous donors who gave us enough to be able to provide every student this past cohort with a scholarship. We don't yet know what that number is for this incoming group, but there are both scholarships available after you apply and scholarships that are available upon acceptance. And so we work on financial need. We just need to be able to understand, whether or not it's something that, if you're filling out the FAFSA and those kinds of things, that's considered financial need. To make sure that we're helping students that are in the most need be able to get funding for the program. But yes, we in fact have a what I call a full graduate assistantship that is offered through the graduate school. It pays about 2/3 of the tuition, but also provides a $25,000 stipend throughout the year. So that is the big one that comes through. And generally we're kind of making that evaluation during the interview process in terms of who might be the best fit for that. And if we can't make a decision, we'll usually toss out a couple questions to the incoming cohort, so that you have an opportunity to apply for that scholarship to then help us make that decision to provide you with funding. But yes, we do try to provide as much funding as we possibly can. We spend a lot of time trying to raise funds for that.
And we always remind students of this, as acceptances go out, but I will just say, while I have you all here, if you are thinking about applying for financial aid and filling out the FAFSA form, because we have that summer start, the summer falls under, I was actually just trying to do this math in my head, so correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, but we're right now in the 21-22 year for the FAFSA, and the summer falls on that. Yep. So if you're considering a summer start and considering our program, you might want to go ahead and just have your data in the FAFSA with BCU added to it for the current year, the 21-22. While you're in there, you might as well go ahead and fill out 22-23, because that's the one you would need for the remainder of the program. But I do like to mention that about that summer semester, because financial aid years run fall, spring, summer. And so you would need one for 21-22 for that summer.
Another note for that, if we have anyone coming directly from undergrad, applying to graduate school means that your parents' income is not counted towards your financial aid. So you will most likely have a greater award available to you. And in graduate school, you only have to be registered for 5 credits in order to be able to use financial aid. You do not have to be at the full 9 credits to be considered full-time to access financial aid.
Yes, so that's a great point. You'd want to go update that checklist where it asks if you're like that, are you going to grad school? Are you 24 or older? That whole checklist, you'd want to go update that. So it would stop looking at whoever's information was there when you were a dependent student. Yep.
Perfect. Anything else we can answer for you?
And thank you all for hanging in. I know we have run a little over time, so we're always happy to answer questions, but thanks for hanging in with us.
really informative questions that I'm pretty certain anybody who's watching this or here has.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. Excellent. All right, well, I think we can probably wrap it up for the evening. Our email addresses are in the chat, but also available on our website for you to access. I believe even we'll send out this slide deck as well, and at the end has our email addresses really for DaVinci, but all of those, the main DaVinci email address gets funneled to us. So we will absolutely be happy to speak with you, happy to have a one-on-one with Garrett or anyone here. Also happy to connect you with alumni from the program. If you want to hear from someone who is maybe also a parent or someone who also comes from an arts background or an engineering background and what their experience was here, happy to have them represent and give you their honest opinion. So yeah, just reach out to us with any questions or interest in meeting with people, and we're happy to oblige. Excellent. Well, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for anyone who tunes in on a recording. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.